What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as we look at the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including Alberto Del Rio's shocking allegation against Paige, Alexa Bliss is doing a special on The Undertaker, AEW has multiple video games coming out, Paul Heyman's new job, the fallout from AEW Full Gear including 2 former WWE superstars showing up, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now let's hit the intro and get straight into the first story. Now our first story looks at the fallout from AEW Full Gear. AEW's 7th November Full Gear pay-per-view is over and there are some major changes to the AEW landscape, including 2 new champions. Darby Allin defeated Cody Rhodes for the TNT Championship, while the Young Bucks defeated FTR for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. The Bucks would have been unable to ever compete for the tag titles again had they lost. Kenny Omega is now the new #1 contender for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship after defeating Hangman Adam Page in the tournament final to determine Moxley's next opponent. Moxley also defeated Eddie Kingston in an I Quit match to retain the title. In other news, MJF defeated Chris Jericho and is now a member of Jericho's heel faction, the Inner Circle. Fans know that MJF and bodyguard Wardlow's presence in the group is going to create problems for the heel faction. Also, AEW has announced that its next pay-per-view will be AEW Revolution, set to take place in February next year. Now, despite strong speculation that former WCW franchise player Sting might show up at Full Gear, the Hall of Famer was nowhere to be seen. He's considered a free agent and is able to work anywhere, but it remains to be seen if he'll be showing up in AEW, the WWE, or any other wrestling promotion for that matter. Did you guys watch Full Gear? Yeah, if so, what did you think of the show? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, AEW is working on multiple video games. It's good news for fans wondering what the status is of AEW's rumored video game, or now games. During Full Gear's post-show media scrum, AEW President Tony Khan commented on AEW's plans for video games. He mentioned, "I can't say too much, we're making multiple games. We're working on more than one game in AEW games and we're going to cater to multiple platforms. We're going to cater to different kinds of games and different interests. I think we'll put out a title, a console game that's best in class for a console game. We're really excited about it. We have some big surprises to come in 2020. I just can't say enough, but there's still time in 2020. The show was great, but there's still a lot left this year. To be honest, it's well unlikely that there'll be any games released in 2020, not only because of the length of time involved in developing games, but also in marketing them. Nevertheless, that doesn't preclude an announcement being made at the end of the year as far as a 2021 release goes. Fans have heard that AEW was planning on introducing at least 2 games, with speculation that one might be for mobile devices. Kenny Omega, who is a big gamer himself, has repeatedly talked about working closely with developers to ensure AEW's games are a rewarding experience for fans and gamers alike, and Khan talked about how AEW intends to make its games important as well as to cater to certain tastes. We're going to put something out for those people like myself that love putting wrestling cards up together and love to be in the position that I am, which is the general manager of AEW. That'll be fun. There's going to be a few different titles, and I don't think we're going to stop anywhere either. I think we're going to expand here at AEW Games because it's a great chance to introduce gaming fans to AEW and introduce AEW to gaming fans, expand and build a business. There's a lot to come from there. While there has been some legendary pro wrestling games that capture the magic of the squared circle, there have also been far too many that have been duds. What are your expectations for AEW? What type of wrestling game would you truly like? A general manager type strategic game? A video game loosely based on WWE's 2K series? Or would you want them to go old school like No Mercy? Next up, WWE is bringing back some WCW trademarks. Now, the WWE has been busy working on seeking protection for former WCW trademarks, something it realized it had to do after AEW ran its Bash at the Beach specials, taking the name of a WCW pay-per-view. Now they've applied for 6 former WCW matches and pay-per-view names as follows: Slamboree, The Match Beyond, Bunkhouse Stampede, Battle Bowl, Super Brawl, and Bash at the Beach. As you'll recall from an earlier news video this week, the WWE stopped its opposition to Cody Rhodes trademarking the name, and there's speculation that Cody and the WWE may have engaged in an arrangement for Cody to get his name back in exchange for him stopping his efforts to trademark past WCW matches and pay-per-view titles. For example, WrestleZone's Alex Santamaria commented, "It was revealed earlier this week that the WWE had given up the Cody Rhodes trademark and believed that the two parties were negotiating. The deal seems to be in place now, with WWE and Cody unofficially trading the respective trademarks, with the WCW IP being released by Cody in an effort to reclaim his last name." While there is definitely some nostalgia value to AEW obtaining former WCW pay-per-view names and match names, some of which were actually created by Cody's dad Dusty, there's also an argument that AEW should create its own names for matches and pay-per-views, building off ideas that worked in the past but giving them a modern spin. It's also unlikely that AEW would prevail in court if it tried to acquire WCW names that were part of the deal made when the WWF acquired WCW's assets. Alberto Del Rio makes shocking allegations against Paige. A former WWE superstar, Alberto Del Rio, is facing serious criminal charges, and you may recall Del Rio's former fiancée Paige recently commented on social media that a former partner confined her and beat her, but didn't go into details on what exactly happened or said who it was, although many assumed it to be Del Rio. Del Rio responded to Paige's comments, telling TMZ.com, "It was the other way around. I have the evidence, not just words. I would say, Rhea, why are you doing this, Rhea? And I'm not calling you Paige, because you were never Paige to me. You were Rhea. Why would you hurt me in a moment like this?" It's also been reported that Del Rio has talked about filing a defamation suit against Paige for her comments. As we probably know from other instances of wrestlers threatening to sue for defamation, Paige would be able to get the case dismissed if she proved her claims were true. At this point, Del Rio may want to focus on his criminal trial, which could lead to life imprisonment if he's convicted. What do you think of Paige's accusations and Del Rio's response? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, Paul Heyman's new WWE gig. Congratulations to Paul Heyman on his new job in the WWE, co-hosting Talking Smack. Heyman appeared on the latest episode alongside Kayla Braxton and quickly made his presence known, stating, "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman and I serve as special counsel to the reigning, defending, undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion Roman Reigns. And so someone who can keep Kayla on the straight and narrow. I now serve the public as your co-host of Talking Smack because Kayla, from what I can see, has been talking smack just a little too much lately." Heyman's legendary gift of the gab should help liven things up on the WWE's talk show and perhaps even further angles for his client Roman Reigns. The WWE does like to use its network shows to further storylines at time, much like it does with social media exchanges between wrestlers. What do you think of Heyman's new role, and if you don't watch Talking Smack, do you have any interest in watching it now? Next up, two ex-WWE stars show up at Full Gear. Matt Hardy and the Inner Circle's Sammy Guevara battled in a World Elite Deletion match at Full Gear, with the cinematic match featuring the usual over-the-top spots you'd expect from the creative mind of Hardy, as well as some cameos. At one point in the match, a man in black showed up with Hurricane Helms tied up, revealing himself as Gangrel. Gangrel threatened Helms if Hardy continued beating down Guevara, who Gangrel actually trained years earlier. Later, Helms' alter ego, a mild-mannered reporter, interviewed Guevara. No word on whether Helms or Gangrel will be back or if this was a one-off appearance. And what's interesting to note is that Hurricane Helms is now one of the exclusive wrestlers who's appeared in WCW, WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, and now All Elite Wrestling. There's not many wrestlers who have achieved that accomplishment, if you count Cody from this rare appearance from back in the day in WCW. And finally, Alexa Bliss is joining The Undertaker, and is the Fiend teasing a match with him. Last but not least, The Undertaker has faced some of the biggest names in wrestling, but one dream match still awaits, and Bray Wyatt seems to want it to happen. Recently, WWE.com tweeted a video of The Undertaker's biggest wins with the message, "From Drew McIntyre to Bray Wyatt, The Undertaker has battled them all." But Bray Wyatt responded tweeting, "Not quite all." A match between The Fiend and The Undertaker could be a dream match if The Undertaker agreed to work it, and a good way to pass the torch from Taker to The Fiend. Could Wyatt be planning for The Fiend to make The Undertaker's 30 Days of The Undertaker celebration even more special with an appearance from him? Might the WWE Universe see the Fiend spoil Taker's appearance at the upcoming Survivor Series, which marks his 30 years since he debuted in the WWE? Now, a Fiend vs Undertaker match has been talked about ever since the Fiend's debut, but with the Undertaker reportedly retired, will any match take place? While Taker has said he's willing to step back into the ring if Mr. McMahon asks for it, there's no telling what will happen until the fans return to arenas. On a side note, Alexa Bliss will also be joining The Undertaker for a special on Thursday night. WWE's social media account posted this, also tagging in Jeff Hardy, who's doing a great impression of the classic Undertaker behind her. But there you have it guys, the wildest wrestling news stories and rumors you need to know in wrestling. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.